Sometimes in life, you have to be the bad guy. Sometimes in life, you have to be a little bit negative about something. Negativity in and of itself is not a bad thing if there is a genuine problem with what you're talking about. Now, I don't pledge allegiance to any platform or any manufacturer or any publisher. I burn more bridges than I'd like to admit within this video game industry, but I don't care because at the end of the day, I am me. And if I see something that I don't like, whether it's from Nintendo, whether it's from PlayStation, whether it's from Xbox, I will talk about it because that's what I do. I keep an open mind with things like this. And yeah, I might lean into talking about one platform over another, but really that's just because I'm one person at the end of the day. There's only so much I can do on this channel, but today's video, we got to be a little bit negative. We got to be a little bit spite-filled, and we have to really question what the hell is going on with Pokemon and Pokemon games, because there has been a sharp decline in the very recent few years. And it seems like a lot of these Pokemon elders and these big Pokemon channels don't talk about it. You know, even with Nintendo does something stupid, you'll at least get something from the larger Nintendo channels. You'll get something larger from the Xbox channels. You get something from the larger PlayStation channels. But the Pokemon community lives inside of its own little bubble. And most of the people, notice I'm saying most, not all, but most of the people that are seen as like the big people within the Pokemon community never really talk about the negative aspects and the negative things happening with this because, well, they don't want to be negative on their channel. Their channel is usually a younger demographic of people who are getting into Pokemon for the first time or looking for tips and tricks on their Pokemon games and stuff like that. So they don't want to bring negativity, because if now these games are perceived as a negative thing, people won't be coming to their channel as much because less people will be playing Pokemon. But Pokemon has had a sharp decline in quality ever since Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. And really, you know, this was kind of a long time coming. We've been giving Game Freak and the Pokemon Company the benefit of the doubt, saying, okay, well, you know, they're transitioning because they usually made handheld games, but now, you know, they're dipping their toes into home consoles because there's no handhelds anymore. So it's going to be a little bit of a transitional period. But the transitional period is null and void now. You have had more than enough time to get used to making a game for a home console, which you have made games for home consoles before in the past. Let's get that out of the way first and foremost. But Pokemon has become so big that it's this juggernaut that keeps on rolling no matter what's in its way. If there's, you know, a gap in the bridge or something like that, they're just going to try to steamroll and jump right over it. I've been playing Pokemon games since the first Pokemon game, since Pokemon Red and Blue. I had Red, Pecker Dupree had Blue. We played it in 8th grade. We were 13 years old. We would trade Pokemon and stuff. I would go over to his house before school because Pokemon cartoon came on at 7 in the morning, and we would sit there and watch it and sing along with the songs. Catch 'em, gotta catch 'em all, gotta catch 'em all, Pokemon. And we loved it. We loved it. Pokemon was so cool. Now, I'm not the biggest Pokemon fan in the world or anything like that, but I always try to play at least a couple Pokemon games per generation. I've played games on the DS. I've played games on the Game Boy Advance. I've played games on the 3DS. I've played games on the Nintendo Switch. But what we've been getting lately from Pokemon is crap. And it finally some critics are starting to come around on this stuff. I mean, let's talk about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, just how that launched with all these bugs, all these glitches, all of this weird sort of stuff, these low resolution textures, huge frame rate dips within the world itself. Couldn't even hit 30 frames per second in an open world thing when you're the biggest freaking company in the world. And I've seen people online try to negate that and be like, well, money doesn't solve anything. Yes, it does, you freaking idiot. You hire more testers, you hire more people to work on it, you hire people of a higher quality that know how to make games for a modern platform in order to make sure that it's a smooth experience. I'm not expecting Pokemon games to be the best looking and best running games in the absolute world, but the amount of revenue that they generate, they probably should be. They probably should be, because we hold certain, you know, franchises to a high standard. A game like a Mario, a game like a mainline Zelda, a God of War, a Halo. You know, we hold these games to high standards because they're industry staples. They've been around for a very long time. They've given us some of the best experiences that we ever have gotten. We expect large budgets. We expect high quality games and high quality gameplay and some of the best visuals or presentation on a system. But Pokemon just seems like the most half-assed thing in the world because you don't get that. Instead, their big game is a big, buggy, broken mess upon launch. And yes, there's been some patch, but they came out. That's the thing. They came out and they're like, hey, we hear you guys. There's some performance issues. Well, we are here for you. And this was almost a year ago to the date. We are here for you, and we are going to make things better. We're going to do patches to improve. They haven't done shit. It has been nearly a year, and they haven't done shit. Actually, beyond just the baseline Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, which I think there's a decent game under there, but even if the game ran perfectly and looked perfectly, you know, I still don't think it's a great monumental game that is really of the high caliber that they should be churning out due to the amount of revenue that they make. But they did give us something. They gave us some DLC. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, The Hidden Treasure of Area Zero, Part 1. A whopping 65 on Metacritic, a whopping 5.1 user score. Let's take a look at the IGN review, which I am very surprised that IGN buried this game as much as they did, because you know, there are certain games and there are certain franchises that I always feel they get a little bit more of a pass because of their history and, you know, what they sort of represent for video games or what they've done for video games. The Teal Mask is yet another step in a slow quality downslide for the series. It runs terribly, looks ugly, feels predictable, doesn't offer any of the freedom of Scarlet and Violet's main story did, and falls short in so many ways compared to just about every Pokemon game. Like, we should not be saying stuff like this about the company that generates the most money and the most revenue. Think of all these popular games that have come out, you know, recently for the kids, and think about how they've expanded all this stuff. Stuff like Roblox, stuff like Minecraft, stuff like Fortnite, ever evolving, pushing the limits of what the game can do. Fortnite put a whole new engine in the game to make it look better and stuff. But for some reason, we're getting these scraps from the Pokemon company, and people are going to be like in the comments, well, it's because of the car, or just because of this. They have to time things up with this. Who gives a shit? If your main product that got people into your fandom in the first place, that sells 15 million plus units for your mainline games, isn't producing at a high quality, who cares about the other stuff? Because eventually you're going to burn those consumers who are buying the other stuff. They're buying that stuff because they're a fan of the Pokemon franchise. They're a fan of the Pokemon video games. That's what got them into the Pokemon fandom in the first place. It's such a nearsighted thing that people say with this. And then of course, that's not enough, folks. No. There's another Pokemon game that came out. Now, I went on record as saying, this looks like a PlayStation 2 game. Like this literally looks like a PlayStation 2 game. People said, oh, well, it was a 3DS game. And they canceled it for the 3DS and brought it over to the Switch. And what does that mean? That means you don't do anything to the graphics. You don't make the game look better. We, of course, have Detective Pikachu Returns coming in at a whopping 69 giggity nice. 100. It's, oh my God. It's not a good game. You know, most people overall are saying that this is not a great game. It's too straightforward. Like, yes, obviously the writing of the game is going to be good, but is this really helping the cause and the complaint that Pokemon games as of late have been very half-assed? Imagine a Mario game, even a Mario spin-off game, coming in at a 69. Like, you would start to question, well, why did Nintendo do that? And probably Super Mario Strikers should have been that game that came out on a 69 because it wasn't a very good game. But this is really more so, it's not even necessarily about Detective Pikachu. Like, I don't think anyone really had a whole lot of, you know, faith in that game. And, you know, there's going to be people that enjoy it, just like there's people that enjoy crappy games all the time. But one thing I always hear is, well, they're kids. You know, kids don't know anything about the quality of the game they're playing. Are you out of your damn mind? Did you play video games as a child? Like, were you just an absolute sheep, an absolute drone who had no critical thinking skills whatsoever to realize whether a game was good or bad? There are tons of games that I rented as a kid where I would be like, wow, this game sucks. Super Mario 64, Virtual Hydlide for the Sega Saturn, Top Gun for the NES. Like, it's very easy to identify whether a game is good or not if you're a child. Children, you know, they might not have their full critical thinking skills developed, but they can tell, you know, basic things, crap from good, right from wrong, and stuff like that. And yes, what you liked as a kid isn't necessarily going to translate to what you like as an adult, but you keep those memories in your head. You keep positive memories and negative memories memories of things from your childhood in your head. That's why I hate Virtual Highlights so much. That's why I hate Quest 64 so much, because these games disappointed me as a kid, as the person who is playing these games. There's no excuse for Pokemon games to come out and run and look like shit. There's no excuse. You are the biggest company in the world. You need to make 2 teams to make these games. Fine. You need to slow down other things that are happening within Pokemon in order to make high quality games. Fine. They did it with WWE 2K. You didn't expect them to shut down production after WWE 2K20 was a freaking abomination of a game, and they took a year off to be like, okay, we need to figure something out here. We need to figure something out. The Pokemon stuff has just gotten too big. You're not getting a patch. The DLC that's coming out runs worse than it does on the original baseline version of the game. And there are games, I'm not going to blame this on the Nintendo Switch, because there are way more visually taxing games on the Switch than a game like freaking Pokemon Scarlet and Violet that just blow that game out of the water in terms of visuals and in terms of frame rate and in terms of visual fidelity. There's no excuse. And by making excuses, you allow this behavior to continue. You allow this to continue on by buying the games and you're supporting the games, being like, oh, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. Pokemon should be held to the same high standard that we hold other major mainline franchises. And the fact that nobody seems to do it is just ridiculous. So if I got to be the bad guy and get a bunch of dislikes on this video, hey, you know what? Pokemon community wants to come after me. Fine. I don't care. I am a Pokemon YouTuber at the end of the day, and I am your new king and ruler. So bow down, my royal subjects. I'm just kidding. But yeah, man, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous at the pass that people give these games. It's ridiculous that, you know, they just drop a little nostalgia for you, and then you completely forget about just what shape these games are in. I love Pokemon Legends Arceus. I thought that was going to be a really good game, and it really, you know, it brought me a lot of joy. But ever since then, everything has sucked. It's been crap. There's nothing good. Like, how did you get to this point where it almost seems like you're turning that corner? You're almost here. You're almost here, developing games for consoles and making them look good, and you take 5 freaking giant leaps backwards. I'm sorry, kids. Sometimes you got to hear things in life that hurt you. Like, I heard a lot of things in life that hurt me growing up. Anyways, thank you guys for checking out this video. Let me know what you think of the Pokemon franchise in 2023 in the comment section down below. Do you see this as a problem? Because you should. And if you don't, you're the reason why Pokemon games suck. I had to say it, bro. I had to say it. Don't get mad. Don't get mad at the messenger. Just get mad at the message. If the message makes you mad, because you're guilty. And as always, thank you guys for checking out this video. Hit that subscribe button for standing up for, I mean, I stood up against Pokemon. That's big. They're probably going to try to take me out. The Pokemon trading cards are going to throw a card at me like Gambit and try to kill me in my sleep. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.